Hey, welcome back to Dirty Dave's Garage, YouTubers. Got a new addition to the Dirty Dave clan of vehicles. This is a 2021 Ninja1000sx. Going to be doing some upgrades to it, making a few videos here and there. I got the seats off right now, just doing some checking on some electrical connections and whatnot. But today, next couple days, we're going to, well, hopefully get all the parts in, but we're going to be adding a couple USB ports here in the power outlet knockout. And there's videos out there for older models, but the 2020 and newer Ninjas are different. They have a different connector inside. They don't have the bullet connectors like the older ones do. So we're going to take a look at that. I bought some new connectors, and we're going to see if we can update it and plug in our power supply, which we purchased, or our power supply, our power outlet, which I will show you here. Basically, little USB waterproof connection. You can pop the lid. It's got a volt reader, voltage readout in the middle that you can't see, LED. It's not lit up yet, but it gives you two USB ports. And I'll put links to all the stuff I use down in the description. The tools you're going to need to do this to start is a 4mm Allen wrench and a small screwdriver, small flat tip screwdriver, which I will show you here shortly, to take out these bolts or nuts. There's one here. We're going to start just trying to remove this one panel here and see if we can get to it, because it looks like the newer models, the connection is right about here. If you can see where my hand's pointing on the newer models. The older ones, it was farther up in the fairing. Up here there were some bullet connectors somewhere behind this light down in the fairing that are no longer available on the newer options, the newer models, the 2020 and newer. So we're going to see if we can show you what we're going to do this, and hopefully save somebody a lot of grief. Because I went in there yesterday, I took the panels off, couldn't find those bullet connectors, couldn't find any kind of connector, and I found a write-up on the internet on one of the forums where a guy took some pictures, but they helped a little. But apparently there is a connector down in here for extra power supply, power connectors, and also for heated grips. So we're going to try to dig them out of the wiring loom, and we'll use the thinner set of wires, because the thicker ones are probably for the heated grip accessory. But we're probably going to change the connector out, because I didn't want to pay $100 for the Kawasaki power outlet, which is basically just a cigarette lighter with the proper connector on it. We'll either splice it and put bullet connectors on it, or we'll pull the pins out. I have a tool to do that, which I'll show you shortly, to pull the pins out of the stock one and put a different connector on it that we can use with the wiring to our power outlet. So hang tight. I will show you real quick how to pop these little pop rivets out. You can see there's a little dimple in the middle, a little pin. If you just take a small, anything small that'll fit inside of there, bear with me a second, I'll show you real quick how they come out. I'm just going to use one of my smaller Allen wrenches. Just push that pin down. Try not to scratch it up too bad. You can see now it's pushed in. Now you could take something small, or your fingernail maybe. I don't have any fingernails, but just get under it and lift it up a little bit till it comes free, and then it'll pop out. That's how you take them out. Now when you put it back together, you're going to want to push this pin back up like this, so it's sticking up. See that? Then push it back in the hole, and then push the pin back down until it pops. You'll hear it pop, and that means it expanded and is now secure. But that's how you get those little pop rivets out. The Allen nuts, they're pretty self-explanatory. We're going to take this one out, and for this piece, I believe that's the only one you have to take out. Might take this one out just to be safe, but once you get that loose, you just pull on this a little bit, and there's some little rubber pop plunger type connectors, and you just slide this forward a little bit, and it's got some like plastic hooks that grab into the fairing, and it'll come off. But we'll show you that once we get to it, so we'll be right back. Okay, so we removed that one 4mm nut, Allen nut, and then I pulled, you can see here where one of these little rubber plunger type connectors are. Gently lifted it from underneath and popped it loose. There's another one under this section, same thing, you probably see the grommet there. So pop that one free, and then it just slides forward, and if you jiggle it, it should come out. A piece of the rubber weather seal came with it, but I'll fold that back on and stick it on. But that's it. That's how you get that panel off. And we'll be right back. Alright, so if you could see down in here, where I've got the light shining, you see this large electrical connection here my thumb is on. Underneath that is the wire loom. I kind of pulled it out a little so you could see. But taped up in that wire loom, supposedly, is where we're going to find our extra connectors for accessories. And I think they're going to be farther back, like this way. I can't really... Let me try this. Hopefully you can see where it's somewhat taped up behind here. Hopefully you can see that. And that supposedly is where our connectors are. I know it's difficult to see because there's things in the way, but I'm trying to do this without totally taking the bike apart. I just need to get those connectors free. So I'm going to fool with that. Once I figure it out, I'll be back and show you. I'm trying to save you from tearing the whole bike fairing apart. Okay. So I think we got her. Let's get the camera down here where you can see. Hopefully you can see that connector sticking out now on top of the lighter color, the black connector. It was just under some tape. I just pulled on it gently and it came out from under the tape. That's the connector we're going to tie into to connect our power plugs. So I'm debating whether I want to cut some of that tape that's farther back to give me a little more play so that we can pull it up through here and work on it, because it's a little short. If you can see, it's got plugs in the end to keep it clean, but this is the Kawasaki factory plug. I don't know if I'm going to have any luck finding the other end to make a connector that mates to that successfully. I've seen guys buy the waterproof connector kits. Of course, they're a different type of connector, but the pins are the same, and they've hooked theirs up and just plugged them in. But the problem with that is, even though they have a little rubber seal on them when you plug the pins in, it doesn't connect to this. They do snap in place inside those little circular holes, but they don't lock to this factory housing because they're a different kind of plug. And this is what I bought a tool that I'm hoping I can stick in here to release the pins and then slide the pins into one of the newer waterproof type connectors that I bought. If I can do that, we're golden. And if that works, great. If not, we may have to cut them off and make our own, which I'm waiting on the crimp tool to be able to do that. But I'm hoping we can just do this and put one of the new plugs on that I bought and be done with it. And then we can just simply wire up the housing for the USB connections and plug it into this when we're done with the new connectors. So let me first try to see if I can get the pins out of this. And if that works, I'll show you how I did it. I'll be back. Okay, quick tip from the factory. It has these little rubber plugs in there, and I had a dickens of a time trying to get them out. This is what one looks like once you get it out. It's just a little rubber waterproof plug, but I had a little pick tool. The screwdriver wasn't working, it was just pushing them farther down in the hole, but this little pick tool has a sharp kind of pointy thing, and I just stuck it in there and it popped right out. So that's what I'm using to get the rubber out of them so we can get the key tool, which is what this is. I bought a kit, and again, I'll put links to all this down in the description. It's different. I got 2 chains of different kind of electrical pin release keys for different kinds of connections off Amazon. It was like $8-9 for all these keys, and I'm always fooling with these damn connectors on cars or something. It was worth it to pay for it, so because if this idea works out, it's going to be a big time saver. So we're going to try to remove the factory pins from that plug and put them in some of the new waterproof connectors that I bought. Hopefully, if it goes well, this will be what the plug looks like when I'm done on this end, and then I can hook my USB power up to this end, the male end, and just plug it right into this and it's got this green waterproof gasket on it already, and it locks in place with these clips. So we'll see if it works. You know, you can make all the plans you want, but doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work, but we're going to try. And we'll be back. I'm going to get that other plug out and see if I can get the pins out, and then I'll show you which tool I use to do it and how it works. Alright, just for informational purposes, I did find the other connector, and one is for your heated grips, and the other is for your power connector, power outlet. The one I was working on originally, I believe, is for the power outlet, and it's got, looks like, see if I can get my hand in through the hole here and hold it. It'd be easier this way. It's got a blue wire, and I believe the other one is black and yellow, or black and green stripe. So the blue is going to be where your juice comes in. The green, black is going to be your ground. The other one was up front here, and I thought that would be the power supply, but it has thicker wiring on it. That wire is definitely a thicker gauge, so I'm assuming this one is for your heated grip. So I'm going to leave this one alone, the one that's up front closer to the power outlet. But we're going to use this one for our actual power outlet connection. And I've got the little stoppers out of the end here. As you can see, it's now open. And we're going to see if I can get my tool in there to release the pins and slide them out the bottom of the actual connector, so we can try and put them into one of my new connectors. Okay, so to get the factory housing apart, this is the actual plug that came off. That's the part of the connector that actually holds those metal pins in. Now you can actually see the pins, but you have to get under it. There's a little tab here on the underneath side, and push this tab up, and it slides off of this. Once you get this out of the way, then you can work on getting the pins out. So we're going to try to find the correct key from my keychain to slide in there. These look like square. I don't know if I have a square one, but I'm going to look through. It might just be one of those fork tools. I'm going to try to figure out which one it is, and then I'll show you how I get them to slide out the back of the connector so we can try and put them in one of the new connectors. Hopefully we won't have to put new pins on. So we'll be back. Okay, we got the housing off. Here's your 2 pins. Make sure you don't have your key on, because if they touch, they're going to blow a fuse, because when you turn the key on, they will be hot. To get them off wasn't too bad. This is what the housing looked like before, and I know it's difficult to see, but there are plastic tabs underneath the metal part, and you have to push them down and pull the wire out, and it's very tight in there. But if you're patient and you find something small and pointy that you can get in there and just push down on those plastic tabs a little bit, that will let the cable slide out the back. And it's already got the waterproof connectors. Sorry about that. So I'm hoping, since they've still got the waterproof connectors on, I'm hoping we can just slide them right into my new fittings and be good to go. We're gonna try. We may have to replace them with the ones that came with my connectors, because they're square and the ones that came with my connectors are not. Either that or I'm going to look on Amazon and see if I can find one that's made for the square type connectors, so I don't need the Kawasaki ones, and I can just send these back. But I think I only paid 10 bucks for a bag of like 10 of them. So but let me see what I can do. It may work. I know these are square, but the actual connectors themselves are round on that end. So I'll have to look at I'll take one of the pins that came with my kit and stick it in one of these before I put anything on it, so I can get it back out. And if it looks like it makes good contact, we might just go for it. So we'll be back. Okay, so after much careful deliberation, we've decided what we're going to do is we're going to snip these connectors off. I tried to take the original connector apart, and I bought some waterproof pigtails because I was hoping I could slide these connections out the back, but it's not working. I was hoping I could just slip them into the housing of one of these and replace the square terminals that are in this connector and use this body, because you can't find those Kawasaki plastic connectors anywhere. And I understand the Kawasaki shops just cut them off and put their own connectors on. They might use bullet connectors. But what I'm going to do, since I got these nice pigtails, I'm just going to snip off the ends, the old connectors, and solder these on with some shrink wrap. And I'll cover it up, the solder joint up with the shrink wrap when I'm done. Then I can just plug this thing in. I can connect this to the harness to the USB port. And that way I can, if I never need to replace it, all I have to do is pop this off and put a new one in and be done with it. And I'll have a nice waterproof connection. These have I'll show you the little rubber gasket inside. You just pull the tab up and pull it apart, and you got the nice rubber yellow seal on it. And if you notice, these are square like the original ones, but they just don't want to go up in there. I don't know if the wires are too short from the factory harness or not. So I know it's tight quarters in there, but I think I can snip them off. If you can see them down in there. And I sliced the rubber tubing that was around it, protection sleeve that was around those two wires to give me a little room. I'm going to strip the ends off. I've got some wire strippers. I'm just going to strip like a 1/2 inch off, 1/4 inch off, twist them onto the new pigtails, and just tin the connection with a soldering iron to make a good solid connection. And then I'll have a piece of tubing, some of the shrink wrap tubing that I've got all different sizes. I'm just going to slide a little piece over the pigtails. Make sure you do that before you solder, because you can't get them on once it's connected. And we'll slide the shrink tube over the solder joint, run a lighter over it to shrink it up tight, and then we'll be good to go. So we'll be back after I try that. All right, quick update. We got our connector put on, got it all shrink wrapped. You can see here, I just had barely enough room to get in there, twist those wires together, solder them, tin them, and then get my lighter down in there to heat the shrink wrap tubing up to seal it all up good. I did have to slice that plastic tubing that the wiring's in to give me enough room to strip the wires and get in there. Now, I'm not going to kid you, it was tight. It was difficult to do. I couldn't film it because I was trying to get this done, but hopefully if you've got some basic, putting on some bullet connectors would have been a lot simpler, but I wanted to make this easy and watertight, and I think I've accomplished that. So we've got our waterproof connector attached now the way we want it. Make sure you hook the red up to the positive, which is the blue wire, and the black to the green and black wire, which is the ground. And it's already fused. There's a fuse in the fuse block for this. Now the USB port, you're going to see in a minute, has an inline fuse on it. I don't know if I'm going to leave it in line or just cut it out. I'll probably end up just cutting it out. No sense having two fuses and just more wire mess to clean up. But I want to try to keep this neat. I shouldn't need, since this is the other end of our connector, I shouldn't need a lot of wire on that USB connection. And in fact, this may be enough because it's only going from here to here. So I may be able to just put the spade connectors on the end of this side, plug it in, and then plug it in and be done. I think we'll be able to do that. I don't think we'll even need to use any of the wire that came with the USB connector. But we'll find out shortly, and I'll be back once we get to that part. So step 2, once you get your connector wired on, you got to get this cover plug taken out of the dash. It's a little tricky. You got to take this 4mm bolt out, this pin that was here, which we already took out, and that bolt, that 4mm Allen head bolt, so that you can gently move this cover out of the way and get behind it with a stubby screwdriver and take this Phillips head out, which I just dropped. There's a Phillips head on the back of this metal bracket that you need to remove, and you kind of got to feel it with your fingers because you can't see back there. Get it unscrewed a few turns, and it's a handful, but you'll get it out. And once you get it loose enough, you can just unscrew the cover from the front until it comes loose. But you got to get that cover plate out of the way to start fitting your outlet in. So we're going to go grab the outlet next. Okay, so before we got carried away, I wanted to connect this thing and make sure it was working. So I'll show you what I did here in a second, but we are working. Don't know if you can see it, but we got our voltage display. This is how we're going to mount it. I've seen a lot of guys mount it with the flap at the bottom. I kind of like mine at the top. That's how the writing is. So we're going to mount it accordingly. But what I did, let me shut the bike off and show you. Instead of using the wiring harness that came with the USB port, I just used the wire that came with the pigtail because, like I said, there's plenty here. You can see that once it's in there, there's plenty of wire. I've got some plastic wire loom. I'm going to cover up the sections to give them a little added protection, but I really don't think they're going to need it because nothing's going to get in there to damage it. But I had some of these blue terminals, and I just crimped them onto the pigtail that came. So they slide, they fit on the back. You just need to make sure you orient them properly and remember which side is positive and which side is negative. Now I've already looked at it, and if we've got it mounted right, the black or ground negative is going to go to the left side. So I'm thinking once I mount this outlet into the dash, then I'll be able to reach behind and just slide the terminals on when it's all said and done. So I'm going to unhook this, and you can screw this into that hole. I've seen a lot of guys Dremel it out, but I tried it, and it does thread in and screw in. So I'm going to screw it all the way in and get it nice and tight, and then we'll connect the terminals, and I'll probably put the wire loom on before I do that. But we should be good to go, guys. I'll be back in a minute. All right, so there you have it, all installed, nice and tidy. Get my cord from my light out of the way. But it's got our voltage readout. Pop the lid up. You can plug your USBs in. Put it back down to seal it up. You can see I put some wire loom, and I ran it under this cable that was in there just to keep it in place. So now all you got to do, got some wire loom on the top one too. It's all covered up, protected. I put a piece of tape on each end so the wire doesn't come out of the wire loom. All you gotta do is put your panel back on. So it can be done. Not saying it wouldn't be easier if you took this whole thing apart, but why tear the whole bike apart if you don't have to? Now all I gotta do is put my my panel back in and then put my pop rivet and my 2 Allen nuts in, and it's done. So good luck, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd like to see you back. We'll be doing more projects. I've got some parts ordered. We're going to try to do a stem mount for my phone now that I got a place to plug it in. And I'm just waiting for the stem mount. I got everything I need, I hope, except for the stem mount, and that should arrive any day now. So we'll see you next time on Dirty Dave's Garage.